All right, it's 12:02. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll have to pause maybe periodically to let people in. It's a busy Tuesday, I'm sure, for everybody. So I want to get going. This will be recorded and then also posted to our YouTube channel, which has been recently revamped and reorganized. So it'll be available there as well. A couple more. Let me do some admitting here. All right. Great. Well, what my plan today is to go over our focus on our backtesting tool for Ivo Live, how to get there, how to access it, a practical application using Apple as an example. And then if we have time at the end, take questions. I know everybody's busy, so try to keep this as close to 30 minutes as we can. And then, of course, we're always available offline for any questions or anything we can't cover today. So on these Tuesday live webinar sessions, we try to drill down on a specific topic for iVol Live. On Saturdays, we do a walkthrough of the overall platform. So I know on this particular call, my understanding is we have some beginners and also some more experienced users. So I'll give as broad-based as possible. And then again, if we have time for any questions in the end, we'll cover that. If not, we can chat offline. So when you log on to iVolatility, this is your screen. So again, I just logged in right before this webinar. If you are brand new, you'll see this green ribbon. This is telling you all the different things about iVol Live, especially some of our most popular tools. What we'll focus on today is this backtest data download. In other webinars, we cover iVol Live, Sentiment Analyzer, P&L Calculator, Real-Time Spread Scanner, and daily updates. You can also access here on the left-hand toolbar a lot of those tools. You can minimize or expand that view as you see fit. And then, of course, for anything, support at ivolatility.com, we're always available. So once we close out of that, here's our default home screen on the dashboard. Again, here's your, iVol Live toolbox. Here's some latest news, 2 or 3 sentences on some of the things that are happening in today's market. I like that because, again, we are all busy. And so this is really helpful snippets. Here is news and research that we put out, our editorial team. You can see today, for an example, we put out a piece on, I believe, 3 different names that caught our attention. Here's Lowe's, who had a high implied volatility reading. Here's Dish Network, which also has a high implied volatility reading, which means maybe, we could look at selling options on, those 2 names. And then just admit a couple more. And then finally, Johnson & Johnson, who has a low implied volatility reading. So it could make sense to buy options. So you'll see, when we see interesting things, we like to post at least once per day that the market's open under these actionable trading ideas, just to give our users different insights into what we're looking for and looking at. We also recently updated our Twitter. And so on Twitter, you'll see, let's see what we did today. We posted a nice, little happy Valentine's message. And we also, gave 3 charts here that we really liked that caught our attention in the early market hours and or pre-market. So always good ideas there. Going back to our dashboard, again, our focus today is on this, backtest data download. So when you click on that, this will bring up your data tools. So what you have access to here are options prices, right? So the underlying puts and call for, any strike, you can imagine for any instrument that we cover. And then also too, I would say the 2 most, common ones to begin with are options prices, right? So what was the put and call bid and ask at a specific point in time for a specific stock, and then underlying prices, which are, spot prices for an underlying stock. And then if you're more advanced, we also offer raw implied volatility. So for any questions on what data we have access to, this will give you a quick explanation. This is actual implied volatilities in Greeks based on the full string of listed contracts. And then we have IV Surface, And then we have the IV index. So again, our two most popular, I would say, are certainly the options prices, and then also the underlying spot prices. And I'll show you a real life example of that in a moment using Apple. So, the question for any of this stuff on iVol Live or any platform is, okay, well, what's the practical use, right? And so one of the trades I was looking at from the start of the year was, January tends to be, relatively strong month, especially for certain names. And so I was looking at Apple. So I want to use Apple for this webinar as our example. Here we go. This is the, iVol Live screen. So just again, I know we do have a couple brand new people. So when you first log on to iVolatility, you'll default to the S&P 500 screen. What you're able to do is then we have our stock monitor again, which is kind of like the engine that powers iVolatility. This is where you can run all kinds of different screens on all kinds of different stocks, in this case, the S&P 500. Then you have our futures monitor, our E-minis, and our charts. And then if you're brand new, none of this would be pulled up. So let's pretend like we are brand new. And we want to investigate Apple. So if we want to add a stock to take a closer look on, all we do is we hit this plus icon, type in the ticker, and we have Apple, hit add, and you'll see this is the screen that will appear. You'll have fundamentals on the left. You'll have the charting software on the right. You'll have the options chain load below. And then you can toggle between night mode and regular mode. I like night mode, but with this button here, you're able to toggle between the two different modes. So on the left, again, we have fundamentals. I had been looking at Apple because, it's fundamentally strong. It'd been, whacked along with the rest of the tech names in 2022. So the kind of the theory was, hey, what if Apple has a turnaround in January? What's the best way to play that, right? And I started making these trades kind of later in January, early February. And so I wanted to back test and say, had I been doing this since the beginning of the year, how would this have worked? And in particular, selling kind of at the money put options and slightly out of the money put options, right? So the thesis was kind of, if Apple does okay in January, what would the results be by selling, at the money put options? And so I came here, I studied Apple. Here's the fundamentals. The important parts here that are unique to the platform is this is going to be your implied volatility reading, IVX30. So this is going to tell you, what volatility looks like, for the upcoming 30 calendar days, which contrast with historical volatility, HV20. And this is what, has occurred in the past 20 days. So you can see with Apple, I mean, they're pretty close, implied volatility and historical volatility, although implied is a bit higher. Here, everything else is what you'd be used to seeing, with open, high, mid, close. If you want to add anything to this or any other screen for that matter, just look for this gear icon and you can toggle between different things. Like I like to look at beta and you can bring this down further. I like to look at dividends. So now I can hit apply or save as default. Apply, we'll apply this to Apple only. Save as default, we'll apply this to any stock I pull up using this plus right here. So let's go ahead and hit apply for now. You'll see here's the dividend. This is going to tell me the next upcoming date, the amount. That's beautiful, very helpful to know, especially if I get put and I want to start earning those dividends. Here's our beta, 1.3. And here are a few more things on the fundamental side. Here's our options chain below. If you want to expand this view, I'm on my laptop for this webinar. So if I wanted to expand that upwards, hit that little green arrow, and here we go. This kind of just shows me more on this screen here. I've got strike prices ranging from February 17th to March 10th. Then you can minimize that. Again, to the right here, we have our chart. To maximize that, hit those 4 arrows. And what you'll see is I like to kind of default to the 1-year view. And I just want to explain real quick what we're looking at. Here's our legend. So in this orange line, this is historical volatility. So looking in the past, and this green line is our implied volatility. So looking into the future. And then in the blue is Apple's price. So you can see the current price, 153.85. And so, again, if we want to go back, and really the strategy I'm looking at is, what if I started actively trading Apple, predicting a rebound in 2023? So that would have started, around this point. And you could see, when I was looking at this a few weeks ago, Apple had kind of just started this uptrend. So it was still, we weren't sure, was this going to round out and then fall back down? So a back test, on the strategy was an important thing to do, to see, would this have been profitable in the past? Because what I was looking to do is buy at different support and resistance levels. So if Apple, retraced, I wanted to buy around here. If Apple retraced, I wanted to buy here. And again, if anybody's new to our software, here is the major line I want it to be a buyer at. And so I established this on the chart, and anytime, Apple retraced, I wanted to sell a put and be positioned to acquire shares or earn the premium if Apple continued to move higher. And again, I needed to test, the math on the strategy. Now, real quick, anytime, these are how you access our tools. I just want to show this because I know a couple questions came up. This is how you would draw, this is, for an example, divergence between implied volatility and historical volatility. So, these are ways you can draw on these charts, and you can also take a snapshot for your trading journal. You can save this layout. If you like this layout in particular, you can load a chart layout. Here's different chart layouts I've saved for my different trading strategies. You can also add indicators from the screen. So I just added Bollinger Bands. You can zoom out and you'll see it's a little hard to see in night mode. And then here we go. Let's add our Bollinger Band back in. All right. And that's how you add just technical, just like the fundamentals. You could just scroll through here and add any technicals you like to the chart. Again, snapshot, save. You could also simplify this chart. So if I just want to look at, and I wanted to get rid of historical volatility, if I just wanted to look at price and implied volatility, this is what I'm looking at. The blue line's price, and the green line's implied volatility. So I can come down here and I can find these major support levels for Apple. And I can say, all right, well, when implied volatility spikes, I want to be selling puts near the money on Apple. And I'm happy to buy if Apple drops to, these major support lines. So again, we could scroll out to as long as 5 years. We could also go as short term as 1 day. Today, I want to focus kind of on this month time frame that we're working with. And I want to show you guys how to backtest that. So real quickly, once I identify a potential trade in iVol Live, I say, okay, I like Apple. I have this working theory. I like to go to the sentiment analyzer. We're not going to spend much time at all on this, but I like to click and type in the ticker. And I like to test my theory, and say, this is bullish and rather quiet. If I'm selling at the money puts, that's good because, bullish and rather quiet means this trend should continue more or less steadily up and to the right, which means if I'm selling these puts, they should, in theory, mainly be expiring profitably. So again, we have a whole webinar on the sentiment analyzer. If anybody's new and wants to jump ahead, you could always go to any of our tools and click on these service guides, and that'll give you a table of contents and a full rundown. But for today, since we're focusing on the data download, I just want to make sure, I come here to kind of affirm my thesis and make sure, like if this said bearish, highly volatile, it would be a bad idea to be selling, at the money puts on Apple. But, I come here and I just verify my trade thesis. And then, P&L calculator, I go to this once I have a specific trade in mind. So again, right now I'm kind of just testing a theory more so than a specific trade, but we do have a webinar on this on our YouTube channel where we go through exactly how to use the P&L calculator on a specific options trade. And you can do, I know this question came up too. You can do multiple options, one option, add as many legs as you want, add the stock. It's a very, very flexible tool, well worth your time. Real-time spread scanner, I'm going to hop over to because we're going to dedicate an entire webinar to that. I want to, rather focus here on the data download. So once you have a working theory that you want to test, now it's important to backtest it. And so any subscriber to iVol Live has a certain amount of data that's allocated to their account. So real quick, just so you guys kind of could put this in your mindset, depending on your level. Like I'm a pro real-time account. So here's the data download. I have, $80 a month credit, for an example, for the pro real-time. The advanced gets a $25 a month credit and the basic gets a $5 a month credit. So obviously if you're a basic, you're not going to get a ton of data download available. You'd have to be very limited, targeted. Real-time, you're able to do a lot more. And then if you have specific requests, which actually just came up last week, where we had an iVol Live advanced user who needed a whole year worth of data, all you have to do is shoot us an email, sales at iVolatility, and we're able to get you a quote on a specific range of data. In that case, it was a whole year's worth of all US-based stocks, options prices. So now, we have our working theory, right? Apple should rebound in January, February, and we want to back test. What if we sold near or at the money puts on Apple to take advantage of what we consider to be an imminent rebound? So what you could do is come here, we go to January 1st, and let's go to February 10th, because that will be our last Friday expiration date. You could see here, this is going to be the charge, and I will agree to use that from my allocation. You can also receive daily updates. So if you want to get all the options on Apple every day, you could subscribe to that. If not, just make an order. Once you make the order, you will get the order successful screen. So what will happen now is I'll be emailed a link confirming this order, which is great. The other thing you could do, that's more of a shortcut. There we go. Just popped into my inbox. The other thing you could do is go to your My Downloads, and you'll see here's our download from today. You can see I've been playing, like last week, I was really working on CVS. So I downloaded a lot of data playing with CVS. Today we're focused on Apple, and you can see here, we hit our download. And then another thing I want to show you real quick, why we are here, is I would do the same, let's say for this example, for underlying prices. So I want to know what, Apple's underlying prices were for that same date range. So I'd go here, January 1st, and then I'd come here, February 10th. And then the system will update, agree, yes, make an order. And what this is going to do is give me all the underlying spot prices. So this isn't option prices, but this is spot prices. But that's important because we need to know where Apple closed on expiration days to know whether or not, our put sale would be profitable. So again, I come here to my downloads, and on my downloads, you'll now see underlying prices. So what I did, and there's the email. In anticipation of this call, we had consolidated all of this into one spreadsheet. So all you need to do is copy and paste. You can see here, this is the stock prices. So here's the underlying stock prices for Apple from, January 3rd, which was the first market open date in 2023, through February 9th. So this gives us, again, Apple open, high, low, close. We're focused on the, close is what we want to know. And we want to relate that close to the expiration date. So here is just the raw data. This is everything just on one sheet. And then the important part that I wanted to show everybody is this is where we're turning that data into practical use cases, right? Because so this is saying, all right, for the Apple put that expires on January 20th with a strike of 137, obviously put, not call. It's American style. And here's the ask and the bid. And here is our DTE, means days to expiration. So this is saying, what if we sold this put 3 days before expiration? So we would have sold this put on January 17th, 2023, for these prices, like, split between the bid and the ask. What was Apple's price at expiration? Well, Apple's price at expiration was 137.87. So we sold the 137, and since Apple expired above 137, our profit on this trade was the entire 201. So everything we earned by selling at the bid. So we're assuming we sold this option at the bid. So now if we go to the second example, in this case, this is a strike price of 132, expiration of 113 on January 13th, which means we sold it on January 10th. We sold it for $266, so $266 for one contract. And then the price at expiration was 134.76. So we earned that whole 266 in premium. So, and what this means here for moneyness is we're selling like a little bit outside of the money, right? So when we enter this trade 3 days prior, we're not at the money, we're out a little under the money. But this compares to here on this spreadsheet. So what's interesting, about this spreadsheet too, is this shows a different moneyness. So you can see we go from 0.01 all the way down to 0.04. And what this helps to point out too is sometimes when you're selling an option, right, and you're earning the premium up front, even if there's an example where the share price expires below your put at expiration, there's still the ability to earn a profit because you receive that premium up front. And that's one thing that's really, really good about our P&L calculator is it calculates all of that for you. So, that way it accounts for that upfront premium. But what this is showing is that, regardless of selling kind of at the money or a little further out of the money, within our bands, within the range that we sold, every single one of these put sales closed for a positive profit. So this would be red or have a negative in front of it if it closed for a negative result. And of course, that negative result is all, you have to put that in context, because if you're put, you can earn the dividend, sell covered calls. But we wanted to keep this example incredibly simple, selling near or at the money puts on one of the most well-known stocks out there, right? Which is Apple. So in this case, it would have paid to be a little bit aggressive with a strategy, right? Because, when you come back here to iVolatility, you could see on Apple's chart, let's come here and come to our charts. This is our charts tab, by the way. So the easiest way to get to our charts, click here, and then here's all the different charts that we offer. So in this case, let's go spot price, Apple, time range. Let's come out, let's just do 3 months. And so you could see like the timing for this strategy really kicks in here in January 3rd. If you remember, that's the first data cell that we have. And so, when I was selling like 5% out of the money puts, that was a little too conservative. I could have been more aggressive. I could be selling really 1 or 2% out of the money puts, or even at the money puts for Apple, because Apple was in this steady uptrend. And so, all of those trades expired profitably. Now, that doesn't always happen. Had Apple retraced here instead of going up like that, then we would have been put on a lot of those trades, and then we'd have to run the math on covered calls. But for this webinar, we wanted to demonstrate one strategy, right? Selling a put near at the money for a popular, very liquid stock like Apple. And so you could see, that strategy really paid dividends since the start of the year. Now, past results aren't, indicative of future results. So Apple, again, could retrace here. But for now, that was a very simple way for me to test, my risk appetite, which I have ratcheted higher. I've sold more at the money now versus out of the money for Apple. And again, we have a whole webinar on charting, so I don't want to show too many of these, but that's a very simple way to visualize the strategy and then compare that to the data and for the back test, and put the two together, and you have a successful back test of a strategy on a stock. And you can repeat that for whichever stock you're interested in. You could do multiple. So you could say, hey, I'm interested in Apple, I'm interested in CVS, and I'm interested in Microsoft, and these are options prices. And then you could do, any range here that you want. Again, I focused on short term, but you could go as far back as 2014 in many cases. If you need to go further than that, we have options data going back to November 2000 for US, Canadian, and European equities. So again, if you have a very targeted request, please email that to us if you think it goes outside the scope of what you can get from this backtest data download tool, and we'll be happy to give you feedback on it. So we're right at 30 minutes after noon. I wanted to leave some time for any questions on this tool since it's an important one. If there are any, feel free to add them into the chat or ask verbally. And again, when you download this downloads as a zip file. I prefer to manipulate these smaller files in Excel, but we also are about to unveil our FTP data delivery, or our API, which has been in beta. And with the API, you'll be able to play with different tools and integrations, Python, for an example. So all of that is coming very soon. For now, if it's a smaller data set, Excel is easy to manipulate all this data with. And then, all we needed on that pass sheet, for example, was come here. This is a copy paste. And then for, these results, at most, we have to do a lookup function, to pull in some of this data from this prior sheet and then give us our P&L. So it's pretty straightforward, with Excel as is. But again, if there's a more advanced data request, we're happy to entertain that as well. And then, of course, always make sure your iVolatility is up to date, which mine is, thankfully. All right, let me check. I know we have a nice crowd on today, so let me make sure there's no questions that I missed. Again, here is all of the data that I've downloaded before, and I've primarily manipulated all of it through Excel. And then we'll send out an email when our API is ready. If you'd like to be a beta tester for our API solution, please email us at support@ivolatility.com. So that way we can add you to the beta testing file for that API. All right, well, we're at 12:30. Thank you guys for joining, and it's been my pleasure. This is Jonathan with ivolatility.com. Please join us again on Saturday, which will be an overview of all the tools on iVol Live. And then we'll also have a update for Tuesday with our specific topic for next week. Until then, again, this is Jonathan with iVolatility. Happy trading.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you, guys.